So I decided to make this video because I saw another video on Facebook, and someone asked me about the information that I knew about sort of the mathematics behind the creation of the universe and what the universe actually is, how this all ties in with our cognition, how this ties in with physical thought, how we are not just creation, but we are creators, not the creator, but creators. And how can mathematics prove that God exists? Okay, so here is basically a rundown version of the theoretical laws of cognition and how it relates to matter, energy, and the universe. So this is a model of, I guess, the entire known universe. And you can actually see where we start here with the number 1, which is the single dimension, and it is a point. And that's all that it is really just a point. And then as it evolves, it changes and becomes more than just a point, right? So 1 evolves into 1, 1, and then 1, 1 evolves into 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, until we get a line between 2 points, which is a point of reference system, right? As long as we have a point of reference, then we can move from one point to another. So from this point of reference, we have the number 1, and then this wants to transition, and it transitions, but if it transitions in the same way, in the same state, it will not have changed. So it therefore must transition in a direction that is linear, but non-focal. And so that's what puts sort of a twist on all the matter and energy in the entire universe. So you can see the focality sort of changing here. And the 1, as it changes, its focality becomes something else. And this something else has a dimension to it, which does the same thing as the 1 did, until it becomes a 0. And the 0 is not nothing. It is nothing, but it is not nothing because it was 1, and it will become filled with 1, which means it will become all the rest of the universe that we see, observe, and understand in the way that we understand it. So this is where we exist, right here in the middle of these two, I guess you could say, vortices of energy and mass. This, and I don't want to say it like this because it sounds like the Matrix, but this is a simulation. It is a hologram. It is a computer generated. It is ones and zeros. It is based off of a mathematical principle of the path of least resistance and high risk, high reward. So the path of least resistance says that I have to travel from here and I need to get to here. So what is the easiest way to get there? Well, we would say a straight line, right? That is the path of least resistance. But the problem with the path of least resistance is because there's no deviation, then there is no creation. So we have to take a risk. So the higher the risk we take, the higher the reward we generate. And so the same thing happens again. We take a high risk, and another high reward is generated. We take a high risk, and then the reward becomes less and less as the matter becomes less and less until it becomes 1. And here we are, right in the middle. So as the 1 fills the 0, which is nothing more than a vessel to be filled, we are able to observe and create the iterations inside of this vessel. That is the foreseeable universe. So here we go. We create the universe that we see and observe. But at the same time, the universe is being created beyond what the scope of what we can create, or what we are able or capable of understanding creating, if that makes any sense. It makes sense to me, but it's difficult to describe in words. Boy, that's something else. So this entire thing would be actually represented in 3 dimensions. And so literally this focal point here could actually be started from anywhere within the foreseeable universe. So this is just a pattern that is displayed on a piece of paper, but if this was in the universe, this iteration could be represented in any infinite number of possibilities and probabilities. So let's look at mathematics. 'Cause we like calculus, right? We all like math. This is the mind of God. So we have a sphere. Right. Back over here. So, right. So we have a sphere, and so we take this sphere, and in 3 dimensions we break it down, right? And so how do we break down a sphere? How do we turn a sphere from 3 dimensions, or from 4 dimensions, or from 9 dimensions into a single-dimensional point of reference system? And how we do that is we break it down into its key components, its constituents, and we put that on an XY axis, right? We could put that on a Z axis, and then of course it would have a nice little curve, like the palm of my hand has a curve to it, right? And so it would sort of unfold like unwinding an orange, right? So here we go. Then we have 2 points, right, that connect on a Z axis, right? And so here we go. So this is our second step to unwinding the orange here. And then the third step is breaking it down into a flat plane. And then you take these spaces here and you combine them all together. And then we end up with this nice little shape here. And so now we have a point of reference system, right? We have a beginning and then we have an end. But here's the problem. Now we have 2 beginnings and 2 ends. So what do? We do this, right? And it becomes a sine wave. Right? It becomes sound. And sound is the very existence of all of existence. It is the deviation. It is quite literally the, in the beginning, the Word was with God, and the Word was God. What is the Word? Word is sound. Sound. Oto. Kotoba. In Japanese, of course. The sine wave. And if you were to project this in 3 dimensions, it would look like a spiral, like it wants to, like our DNA. So without going too far into it, and opening up my notebook and making myself look really crazy, so I'll go ahead and show you the 3 gears, right? And so here's the 3 gears. So everybody understands the problem of the 3 gears. Even if you've never heard it before, you can rationalize and understand what the 3 gears are. So you have 1 gear here, and it wants to turn this way. And so the other gear here is going to, obviously, it's going to turn the same direction, right, because it's connected as the other gear. But then when you try to put in a 3rd gear, no matter where you put it, if it touches the other 2 gears, it will stop the 2 gears. So try to imagine, instead of having physical gears, right, because we can only create so much in our minds. So let's do this instead. Let's try this experiment. So we're going to have a gear here, and this is going to represent electromagnetism, let's say. Okay, and so this one turns, and as it turns, it makes another planar gear, which is like ionic forces, let's say. Okay, and it wants to turn the opposite way. So these 2 are complementing each other. So then we have something that bisects both of these at their center, and they now combine all 3 gears at once. Now, there is no conflict here. As this turns, all 3 gears have now followed each other. So here's my thing. What if, and here's the big what if, and I'm going to try to make this brief because I'm already 8 minutes. The 3rd gear doesn't exist. What if there are only 2 points? There's only a single point of reference, right? And that single point of reference creates the second. It doesn't matter. Whichever one starts first, it doesn't really matter for all intents and purposes, because all creation is all creation. It's infinite possibilities and infinite probabilities. And then the other one will appear. And then as the second one appears to complement the first, then the third will appear to continue the iteration, and all the rest of creation will come to existence. So let's play a little game. Okay. Fifth order 3-dimensional vector mathematics, calculus. Where is my... Here we go. Okay, so we'll play with the idea of fusion, right? So here we go. We've got hydrogen atom. Pretty simple. Proton, right? Electron, and neutron, right? So we've got our electromagnetic field, which represents our electron force, that as it moves and it pulses sound. Here we go. Then we get the attraction between positive and negative, right? And so positive attracts negative, and negative attracts positive. But then it isn't the only matter that exists, right? So now we have a positive that attracts a negative, and Okay, so now we have a positive attracts a negative, and then now we have a positive attracts a negative, and so on and so forth, right? And it's like a giant galactic game of Tetris. So somewhere we have this force, this acoustic energy that comes in our second wheel, and the second wheel says, "Hey, hey, hey!" And it knocks one of these. Yeah, see, the dog's going crazy. So it knocks one of these electrons or protons off, right? And it nullifies the neutral force, which is nothing more than the neutralization of the forces against each other. There is no neutron. Nothing. The neutron doesn't exist. It's imaginary. We've been lied to in school. So you just have a positive force and a negative force. Right? And so you have 1 and 0. That's all that exists in the universe. On and off. Yes and no. Black and white. Push and pull. You have matter and energy. And so they are part of the same spectrum. And they exist as part of the same spectrum. And they're directly opposing each other. And because of that, they create that point of reference system that I talked about, that is capable of making all other matter come into existence. Now, this is hydrogen, right? And so the only relationship between these two that makes hydrogen different from, let's say, americanum, is how fast or slow in time, right, which we created, these two interact with one another. Let me say that again. Okay, so the faster this moves, the more it would appear that this exists. But actually, in truth, there's only one. There's only one of them. Even in americanum, we think, oh, well, there's a lot more neutrons, there's a lot more protons. So what is neutral heavy radiation? What is neutron heavy radiation? And so all neutron radiation is an energy that is a destructive force. And that destructive force is caused by the fluctuation between these two creating and destroying new matter. And so when it destroys matter in your body, it has created new matter elsewhere in the universe. Or in this case, let's call it energy, right? And so all of these things are equative. So energy is matter, matter is energy, right? Nothing is created or destroyed, but it simply changes from one form to another. So we don't actually need to use nuclear heavy radiation to do any work. It's rather silly when you think about it, because there's a much better way to do it. Much simpler, much easier, right? And that's all I wanted to say. Just, kind of speak my piece. I've got more on this stuff. We can talk about this later. We can get into transistor theory and talking about neurons, the Fibonacci sequence, and we can talk about neurochemistry and some other really cool stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video and tell you guys that I'm thinking about you and I love you, and I've got big stuff planned for the future. I got really cool stuff that in like 50 to 80 years will be, warp technology capable. And you can check out my GoFundMe. At DNIMEERF, or Free Mind, backwards is an anagram. I don't want your money. I don't want fame. I don't want fortune. I don't even want to be president. I know I have a page for it, but I mean, realistically, I would hope that things would get better and that it would require me not to do so. I would love to do nothing more than to just enjoy nature and be outside and take my family on picnics, and we can all have a good life. But that's not going to happen. Somebody has to put forth effort, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my energy, and I'm going to make these things happen for all of you so that everyone can benefit, just like Tesla did, just like so many others did. I'm not God. I'm just a regular guy. Love you.